You had a lot of questions in different communities or posted in my comments. Today I'm going to answer the most common ones. Honestly, no official website version. Let's go. Okay, first question. How did you get your first UN job? What did you do before? How did I actually get in? I am from Germany and I applied to a P3 staff position in Spain. Before that, I worked for a German engineering company, a big one, as a manager. I also worked for Fujitsu Technology Services and Ernst & Young, EY. When I started my career, I worked at the German Air Force, so I'm also an officer of the Air Force. And my educational background is in sports management and economics, in management science and in psychology. So I have a bit of a mixed profile and I work as a solution architect at the intersection of business and information technology. Next question. Which role did you get your first UN job in? What type of contract? That's a quick one. P3 staff contract, 2 years fixed term, renewable. This is a mid-career level. Okay, next question. Is moving up easy? Okay, it's not easy. So to transition within the UN, so meaning I'm now on a P3 level and I would want to move to another position or to a higher level. I have been in the same position for almost 4 years now, and it's very difficult to get into another position. Why? Because most positions are only published if someone is leaving. And if you have a good position at UN, especially on the higher level, people don't leave. So you have to wait until someone retires, or you have to wait until a department is publishing a new position in a new field, and then you won't have the experience either. So that makes it very difficult. So the easiest way to get promoted is actually to move from one UN organization to another one. To be promoted within the same UN organization, very difficult, very rare. Next question. Why does the UN recruitment process take so long? Okay, the process. Why does it take forever? Let me walk you through what actually happens if you apply. First 4 weeks, the recruitment team is screening all the applications. Now, they are very busy, so sometimes they have more time, they manage it within 2 to 4 weeks, and sometimes they have a lot of positions open that they need to handle, and it takes them up to 2 months until they actually did the first step. Then as a next step, the selected applications go to manager to review. So HR is creating a short list of, let's say, 10 or 20 people, and then the hiring manager needs to do the evaluation as well. This can take up between 2 weeks. If the hiring manager is very fast and not that busy, that can also take up to 2 months, depending on the need of the position, how fast you need to hire someone. And then in some UN organization, if it's a high position, it will also need to go to a specific panel internally, kind of a review committee that will need to approve the shortlist. That takes 2 to 2 months, 2 weeks to 2 months as well. Now, if all of this is done, HR is scheduling the interviews. Most of the times you have 2 interviews. So the first interview is a recorded video interview with the best, let's say, 10 candidates. And from all the recorded video interviews, the hiring manager and HR needs to evaluate the candidates again to create a second shortlist of, let's say, 3 to 5 candidates who then go into the final interview. Depending on how many people actually have been shortlisted in the first place, it takes a couple of weeks up to a couple of months, right? And then sometimes there suddenly is a hiring freeze or a position freeze. So you started already the application evaluation, the management of the organization creates a position or a hiring freeze, and then the position is frozen for a couple of weeks or a couple of months even. That's why sometimes candidates hear back after 2 years. My process, for example, was, I think, around 8 months. So it's pretty standard. And that is fast because I have colleagues where the hiring process was 1 year and that the hiring process is only 3 to 6 months. It's very unlikely. Next question. Okay, that's a tricky one. Are UN job openings actually meant for internal candidates. Yes, unfortunately, that's the truth. So, in my experience, around 90% of the positions which are published are already taken internally. Why is that the case? Now, you probably wonder, if someone wants to put an internal candidate, an internal employee on a specific position, why don't they just publish the position internally and never publish it externally? Okay, first of all, sometimes it's a requirement from the member states or from the management of the organization to publish the position externally so that it's fair. So they need to do the official process, even if there's already a selected candidate internally. Second of all, remember in one of my videos, I told you that consultants is the best step into the UN. Now, if someone is working as a consultant, it's actually considered external, even if it's a consultant working directly with the UN. Now, they have been proven themselves over years, not only within 1 or 2 interviews, so the positions are very often created for them. And then, of course, when they apply, it needs to be external, but they are already selected. Does that mean never apply externally? No. As mentioned before, it's always a good idea to get inside first via a consultant contract, which is way easier, and then you can apply from the inside, which is still from the outside, as explained. And this is basically your foot step in. However, I mentioned 90% of the positions are already taken internally. That means 10% are not. I applied directly for a position which was published externally without ever working for the UN. I was not a consultant. I applied directly and I got in. So it is rare, but it is possible. So don't get discouraged. But if it's not working out, try to consider consultant contracts first. What is the best entry point for someone without UN experience? As mentioned before, the easiest way to get in is via a consultant contract, or you can also consider UN volunteers. It counts as experience. It's easier to get in. And if you have already the UN experience and the network, it allows you to get selected easier, to get shortlisted faster. Another option, if you have a background in information technology, science or engineering, in general, this kind of profiles have a high demand at UN, low amount of applications. So if you have this kind of technical background, you will get into a staff position directly without any ways around via consultant and volunteer contracts, way easier. So depends a bit on your background, right? But if you have a background in political science, business administration, international relations, consider getting in via UN volunteers. Consider taking a consultant contract first. Next question, is the CV length important? Okay. I also used to work as a recruiter many years ago, and I can tell you recruiters do not have much time to screen your CV. So now there are more and more AI tools used to screen it, but also still some recruiters are screening your CV manually, and they need to do it fast. They have a couple of seconds only to screen CVs because they receive a huge amount of applications. So what I recommend is not more than 2 pages. So it is important. It's not the most important thing, but try to only highlight the last 5 years of experience and only relevant experience. If you're on an entry level, you naturally probably have a shorter CV. Next question, do interviews happen online? Yes, for the most organizations nowadays, interviews are happening only online. Imagine it's a global organization who is hiring worldwide, so they cannot fly you in for an interview. Usually it's 2 steps, 1 video recorded, so this is not with an actual human, so you get questions and you need to answer them on a video. And then the second interview with the human resource department and the hiring manager, which is a more technical interview, also video conference online. Okay, which organization to try first? This is the last question and it's very difficult to answer. I cannot answer it in 1 or 2 sentences. Why I made another video only about the topic, which kind of profiles UN hires and which organization to try first. So make sure you subscribe that you don't miss it. If you have more questions, please drop them in the comments below and I'm going to answer them in one of my upcoming videos if they have not been covered yet. If you like my content, please subscribe and see you soon.